You know that feeling? It's late, the city's quiet, and we're about to dive into a mystery. But not one of sirens and chalk outlines. No, this is a mystery of process, of creation, of how we get to the truth. We're here to investigate the weight of that first 90%. So here's our central clue. It's just a single sentence, but it holds the key to this entire investigation. That last little bit, it just feels different, doesn't it? It carries this unique gravity. And look, this isn't some abstract philosophical idea. It's a practical truth, something known to anyone who has to dig deep. A detective in a hushed interrogation room, or a writer staring down that final page. They both feel this shift. They know it in their bones. Right, so what is it? What is this weight? What actually changes in those final moments of a project, or a conversation, or a deep investigation? That's the case we're here to crack. Okay, let's start by examining the scene, so to speak. We really have to understand that first 90% if we're ever going to appreciate the real weight of that last 10. This is where the foundation gets laid, often completely in the dark. And you can see the contrast laid bare right here. The first 90%, that's all building. It's underground work, you're kind of wandering around, digging, but with a purpose. But that last 10%, that's arrival. All of a sudden, you're inside the structure you've built, and you can feel the pressure. You can feel the echo of all your work. I mean, think about a novel, right? That very last page. It's just paper and ink. It weighs almost nothing, but it carries the accumulated weight of every single page that came before it. Everything that's happened in the story is now pressing down on that one final moment. Now, this exact same pressure builds in an interrogation room. For most of the interview, that first 90%, the detective's job isn't even about getting the truth. It's just about keeping the conversation going, keeping the air moving, preventing silence from becoming an easy way out. It's all about creating the right conditions.
Because here's the secret. This is the wild part. Everyone walks into that room with a pressure inside them that is seeking release. And it's in that last 10%, when the end is in sight, that the whole architecture of concealment starts to crack, and the truth they've been holding on to, it finally comes out.
So this whole phenomenon, it's not just for detectives. It happens when we create, when we write, when we do any kind of deep work. It's all about finding something called the real register. So what exactly is this real register? Well, it's the voice that finally shows up after that anxious, self-editing part of your brain gets completely exhausted. I mean, it's been working so hard for that first 90% that it finally just lets go. It gives up. And man, when that happens, you can feel it. The words, they stop feeling like choices you're agonizing over, and they start feeling like inevitabilities. They stop performing for you, trying to be the right sentences, and they simply become what they are. That's when the work gets honest. That's when it gets real. And like I said, this isn't just for writers. We have so many different names for this exact same state. A musician calls it finding the pocket. An athlete is in the zone. A mystic might call it ego dissolution. And for our detective, well, it's the confession. It's all the same phenomenon, just in a different uniform. Okay, to really get our heads around this, we've got to look at two traditions that seem totally unrelated on the surface. The gritty world of noir and the ancient philosophy of Advaita. Oh, and of course, rain. Now, what's so fascinating here is that both noir and Advaita, they're both paths of subtraction. Noir strips away all our comforting illusions about justice and order in the world, and Advaita, it strips away the fiction that you are a separate individual self. Both of them arrive at a very raw, very real truth by removing everything that isn't true. And the rain? Well, the rain is the argument itself. It's not just some atmospheric mood lighting. It's a physical demonstration of a core truth. It falls on everything and everyone with complete and total indifference. See, this is how reality works, according to both these traditions. Rain is the great equalizer. It doesn't care about our made-up distinctions or our status. It reduces everything to its most fundamental state. You get caught in enough rain, and your expensive coat and a cheap coat, they're both just wet coats. And this right here, this brings us to the core mechanism behind that last 10%. It's not about adding more stuff, it's about taking things away. It is the art of subtraction. There's this amazing investigative tool from the Advaita tradition called neti niti. It literally translates to not this, not this. It's a process of elimination, of finding the truth by relentlessly discarding everything that it is not. And this, you guys, this is the central revelation. This is the big aha moment. The detective, the writer, their goal isn't actually to pile on more and more facts to solve the puzzle. They're trying to remove enough interference, enough false theories, wrong ideas, and self-deceptions so the picture that was always there can finally be seen clearly. So how does this actually work in practice? Well, you spend that first 90% gathering everything you can get your hands on. But then the real work begins. You start applying nitty-nitty. Not this suspect. Nope, not this alibi. You just chip away and chip away at all the extra stuff until only the irreducible, undeniable truth is left standing. Okay, so let's take this logic and apply it to something even bigger. Not just a single case, but the cases that haunt us for years, sometimes for a lifetime. Let's talk about what the cold case knows. I want you to think of a cold case, but not as a failure. Think of it as a truth that just isn't ready yet. Some truths, they need time to ripen. They need witnesses to age, for other facts to surface somewhere else, and sometimes they need the investigator to change enough to finally be able to see them. And this leads us to a really profound final takeaway. Sometimes the goal isn't to find the answer to the question you're asking. It's to get to a point where the question itself just changes. When you finally let go of a false premise you've been clinging to, the question doesn't get answered. It simply dissolves. So, as the metaphorical rain keeps falling, let's turn the investigation back on you. We all have our own cold cases, right? Our own long, difficult projects. What irreducible truths, what real registers are just waiting for you in that final 10%? What might be revealed if you just keep going long enough for all the obstructions to finally fall away?